Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. And this one is going to be an interesting video today because we're going to talk about finances, of course, one of my topics that I love so much. As you all know, I've seen some financial success very early in life, which I'm very thankful for. And so that allows me to see things on the internet. And when I see things on the internet, I always take it with a grain of salt. I always kind of take a look at the message that's being delivered and see if it makes sense or not. And in today's video, we're going to do just that. We're going to review a video by another content creator. And this content creator is called Rags to Returns. Yes, Rag to Returns. They got 180 subscribers currently. And the video is titled The Worst Thing to Buy in Your 20s. And so, of course, it piqued my interest. And so I wanted to watch it with you guys and see if Rags to Returns is actually telling you the truth or not. But before we jump into his video, guys, make sure you go ahead and give me a like for my video as it helps the channel grow. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so that way you're notified whenever I upload new videos to the channel. And lastly, of course, share this with a family member or friend. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into his video and let's see what Rags to Return is talking about.
All right, boys, I'm back for another little yap sesh. Currently on the way to work, 8:05 a.m. But today I wanted to talk about the worst things and the worst investments you can make in your 20s. You know, obviously this applies to basically any age, but at 22 years old, I've made a lot of these mistakes myself, and I've kind of seen how they can bite you in the ass. And the worst possible mistake you can make, to be honest, is getting a brand new car, right? That is...
All right, so we'll stop right there. And first and foremost, I actually almost fell into this trap. I was, at the time in my 20s, I landed the big job. I was making close to 100,000. Actually, now that I think about it, when I was, so I was doing overtime actually. So I was actually over 100,000, and so I thought I had made it. I made the, the big boy move or the big career, and I was making over 100 grand. So I wanted to buy a brand new car, and that actually started me on my financial journey. So it is very true how 20-year-olds, they fall for the same trap. And I tell this to people all the time. The game doesn't change, just the names of the players change. The players change, but the game is always the same. And if you talk to any 20-year-olds, they always want to buy a brand new car. So that is very, very true.
Is probably the worst way to set yourself up for success in the future. When you're young, let me just give you a backstory on cars, okay? So my first car was a $2,000 2005 Honda Civic shitter that I got off Facebook Marketplace, right?
I take a pause there real quick because my first car was a 2007, excuse me, let me take that back. My first car was a 2000 Honda Accord, two-door coupe. And while the video's playing a little bit here, I'm gonna see if I can pull up a picture of it because of course I wanna show you guys what I was driving all the way into not only from high school, but 2 degrees. Of course, that's in college, my undergrad and my first master's, and as well, I was driving it to work as a highly paid engineer. So let's watch a little bit more while I find that picture.
And that car lasted probably about 6 months before it started having a bunch of different problems, transmission issues, engine mounts, ball joints, control arms, everything was just shit. You know, at one point it didn't even start. I couldn't even get to work in the morning. So naturally I had to get rid of that. I took it to a mechanic and I figured out that to repair everything, to make it last a while, you know, it would cost a lot more than $2,000. It would cost more than what I paid for the car. No point in doing that, right? So what did my dumb ass decide to do? I decided that
So real quick, guys, a little bit about buying your first car. You always want to make sure, especially if you're starting off in life and you want to set yourself up for a little bit of success, do a little bit of research on the car. Back in the day when I was buying my first car, it was a lot harder for you to find information like you have today. So you had to go by word of mouth, or maybe you were just relying on somebody's professional opinion, say like a mechanic, to tell you what kind of car to buy. So in today's world, you really should be doing research on your vehicles and making an informed buying decision. So that way you're not in this guy's shoes where he's saying he had to put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. In fact, actually, I think he even said thousands of dollars into repairing the vehicle. right? You want to make sure that you do a little bit of research on your cars.
That I'm going to get rid of that car. I'm going to trade it in, and I'm going to buy a truck. But I'm not going to buy a super expensive brand new truck. I'm going to buy a 2012 5.7 Hemi V8 Dodge 1500, right? A Ram 1500. So I go to one of these. I found one online for really cheap. I went to test drive. Everything looked fine. But guess what? It was from one of these shitty ass Middle Eastern scam lemon car dealerships. My dumbass.
Guys, this is another lesson too. Stay away from buy now, pay here, or pay later. These car lots, these small car lots that tell you very little money down, you can get any of these cars. Typically, those people are not doing right by their customers. So you want to make sure that you buy from either a reputable dealer, or my favorite a lot of times that I have done is go to individuals who are looking to sell their cars because they're very incentivized to have cash. In fact, actually, the recent car that I bought, which was the Highlander, that I bought of an individual who gave me a phenomenal deal because they needed the money. But stay away from these buy now, pay here, or finance later, however they call them, dealerships. And one other item too, this guy curses a lot. I'm gonna have to edit a lot of his speech here.
Didn't know at the time. I was just a young little jit, and I traded in that Honda Civic to get the truck. Thankfully, the truck was only $12,000, but guess what? After another 6 months of driving it, it started to break down on me. 2 of the cylinders were misfiring. It was shit on gas. Wasn't even 4-wheel drive. It was just a bad decision, right? So I need to get out of that one too, because that's also going to cost a ton of money to repair. Ton of money that I don't have. So what do? I trade that in, and at this point, keep in mind, I'm so fed up of getting used shitter cars and them breaking down on me. I just want something cheap and reliable. I want a Honda or a Toyota. But, you know, I don't like, I feel like I'm gonna get scammed again if I buy it used. So what do? I just go to the Toyota dealership one morning and I just buy a brand new 2023 Toyota Camry. And
all right, so I'm assuming that's the Camry that he's driving right now, the 2023 Toyota Camry, brand new. So one of the things that I see a lot of people make a mistake on is when you're under duress, especially with a lot of car problems, you go to the dealership, and because you're under duress, you make these illogical decisions and you don't have the opportunity to think about the purchase you're going to make. The best way that I can put it, instead of a $30,000 or $40,000 car, in fact, actually, I wonder how much the Camry is, but I'm assuming that car is probably around 34, 35 today, which is kind of expensive in my opinion for a Camry. But anyways, the best way that I can put this is, you ever been to the grocery store and you're shopping while you're hungry? Man, you buy everything under the sun in the grocery store. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. And it's no different than you going into a car dealership and you have a lot of car problems and somehow you end up walking out with a brand new car. So let's continue on and see what he has to say.
my mindset on it was that because I'm young, I don't have as much financial responsibilities as I'm gonna have in the future. So I figured now, if anything, is the best time to like have a car payment, because I don't have many other things that I'm paying for. You know, I'm living with my parents, I don't have to pay rent. Hold on, there's a cop driving by me.
So while we take a pause because he has a cop right next to him, guys, if you're in your 20s, please don't fall into that mindset. That is such a horrible, horrible advice. Just because you're in your 20s and you don't have much financial responsibilities, now is the time to have a car payment. No, that actually is preventing you from having the most amount of wealth as possible. Every dollar that you can invest in yourself and you can invest into the future is going to pay you tenfolds, if not more. So the fact that you're putting it into a car and it's going to be worth nothing, and then on top of that, you're paying interest if you finance the car, it's the fastest way to throw away money and make sure that you're poor. So the fact that he says, hey, I don't have much financial responsibilities today, so now's the time to do it, horrible advice. Don't listen to that.
But yeah, I'm like living with my parents. I don't gotta pay rent. You know, expenses are low, so I figured right now would be a good time. So anyways, I put $0 down. I get a pretty good interest rate because my mom helps me co-sign.
Let's take another pause because that's also another big red flag there. And uh, I'm I'm rubbing my head because that is such a big problem and people don't realize this. This is where wisdom comes in. Do not co-sign for anything, parents. Same thing if somebody asks you to co-sign, do not co-sign. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people not pay, and then all that does is damage the relationship. You literally ruin your entire relationship over a $30,000 car, which in the grand scheme of life is not a lot of money. What you're learning from this guy is that yes, he had zero down, which is also another problem because you're going to pay a lot given that you put nothing down. But then the biggest problem here is that you're having your parents co-sign for you. What happens if you don't get paid? What happens if you don't pay the car off? What happens if you miss a couple of payments? I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong in this situation, and then the parents are the one responsible because they co-sign. And then on top of that, if the car gets repossessed, that also shows up on your parents' credit report. Stuff that your parents never really think about because all they're trying to do is help you out as the child. Do not co-sign, please.
Basically,
Red light, camera ahead.
my car payment ends up being $615 a month. That's the minimum monthly payment.
Yo, $615 a month? I remember when I was coming out of college and I rented my first apartment for a little over $700. So people nowadays are spending on a car what I used to spend on an apartment. That is wild to me. That just tells me that we're in really crazy times. And then secondly, I guess I'm really old.
That's not including insurance or gas or maintenance, right? So $615 a month, and my just decides to pay the bare minimum, which I didn't realize this until now, but if you're paying the bare minimum monthly payment on a car payment, all that money is going straight to interest. It's not even going towards the principal balance of the car.
Well, congratulations, my friend. You just figured out how loans work, especially on mortgages too. Same concept. If you pay the minimum and you're on track with the same amount of payments that they tell you to make as a minimum payment, you will pay off the mortgage in 30 years, just like the 30-year mortgage that you signed up for. And most of the interest is front loaded. It actually is paid in the front end. So it is in your best interest to get out of that situation very quickly because that's where you're going to be spending the most amount of money the longer you hold the loan. Now, the other thing too is, and people don't even realize this when it comes to credit cards as well, when you pay the bare minimum in credit cards, a lot of times that doesn't even cover the actual balance itself. So what starts to happen is the interest starts to compound on itself and your balance starts to increase and increase and increase. It's very similar also to the student loan problems that we're having now. You ever wonder why you hear people say, hey, I've been paying on this loan for 20 years and somehow I only went down $5,000? It's because people pay the bare minimum, and the bare minimum sometimes isn't even enough to cover the interest. But it's really interesting how he's learning the lessons now, so good for him.
You're essentially just spamming paying off the interest, which I got a pretty good interest rate. I think I was at like 5.4% or something like that, which for the time it was pretty good. I did get like kind of scammed out of this car. It wasn't a scam, but I ended up paying a lot more for it than I should have. I went in thinking I was just gonna buy the base model. I don't care about all these features, and then they didn't have the base model. They didn't have the color I like, and all this shit. So I ended up getting a higher spec version of the car than I.
You see how that works? You're under duress. You show up at a dealership, and you need a car. And of course you say, hey, I'll take the cheapest one, but guess what? The cheapest one isn't available, but you need a car today. So somehow magically you come out with a higher base model than what you were expecting to buy. Interesting how that works.
Hoped, which ended up costing a lot of money, and not to mention all the fees. The MSRP of my car was, I think, $28,000 or 30. It was either 28 or 32, and then after all the fees and ended up being like 38. And Thankfully, my car is paid off.
So something to think about. He spent more money on his Camry than I did on my Highlander. And by the way, the Highlander includes all the taxes, tags, and it also included some upgrades that I did to the vehicle. As far as modernizing the vehicle a little bit in order to make sure that I have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So there's a lot of stuff that I did to the car, and somehow he still spent more on his brand new car than what I did on my Highlander. But the point here is that I know to the penny how much I spent, because that is a lot of money. And it's interesting to me how when you finance things, or when you are, let's just say, putting stuff on credit, you don't necessarily know exactly what you're spending because it doesn't cause you that much pain as it does with cash. So see how he's sort of giving you a ballpark as to what he paid for the car? As someone who has paid cash for a $34,000 car, I can tell you exactly how much it was. So just something to think about from the psychology perspective.
Off now, but it was a pain in the ass, man. Having a car payment is just straight up the ass, especially if you're a young kid, you're not making a lot of money. It's just the worst investment you can make, because guess what? Cars, no matter what type of car you get, it's a guaranteed depreciating asset, right? As soon as you drive it off the lot, it goes down, what, 20% in value?
So here's the sad part. The sad part is he knows this, and somehow he still decided to buy the car.
Every single year you're putting miles on it, it goes down even more in value. If you add mods to it, it goes down even more in value. Just basically, it's guaranteed to just go down in value over time. It's a guaranteed depreciating asset. But it's the one thing that us as Americans, we sink so much of our money into. We work so hard and go in debt and have car payments and high interest rates just to have a car. You know, the car you have doesn't matter. I thought like it was going to be so cool having a brand new car when I was only 20 years old, but guess what? After 1 or 2 months, it becomes normal, dude. It's just a car. You just drive it to go to work, come home.
So that's another very important lesson. And by the way, that lesson right there, if you didn't catch it, is the lesson that I learned a while back ago when I started working as a engineer that had to travel, and I was driving brand new cars every single day. I would drive every car under the sun, including this Toyota Camry. And the one thing that I learned is, after being in all these new cars, these cars are just another car. And there's nothing worse when you sign up for a $600, $700 car payment and you have to pay that for 6 or 7 years on just another car. Man, I learned that lesson very, very quickly, and I was thankful that I didn't fall into that trap, and I'm happy that he actually is learning the same lesson too.
And park it in your garage. Like, it's just a means of transportation. And that's a big misconception a lot of people have in their 20s, is that, you know, getting a car, getting a nice brand new car is going to bring them so much happiness. But trust me, from firsthand experience, it does not. If I could go back, I would get a used car. I think the sweet spot for the car market right now is probably maybe like $10,000 to $12,000. I would save up cash and either buy it straight up in cash, or obviously the best car is the one that you can afford in cash. So even if you only can get a $2,000 car, I would just get that and just try to find a family friend or go on Facebook Marketplace, try to find.
So that is a great lesson there, guys. The best cars typically are in that spot where you're in the 2 to 3, 4 year range, around there. They've seen a lot of depreciation, but they also still have a lot of life in them. So in our particular case, we bought a 2019 Toyota Highlander, and at the time that we bought it, it was 2024. So about a 5-year-old car, but it had very, very low mileage on it. It had less than 60,000 miles on the car, and because it had so low mileage on it, it was pretty much like a brand new car, except because of the year, it's seen a lot of depreciation. So I bought this car for practically nothing. Buy a used vehicle within that time frame, right? 2 to 5 years, somewhere around there, that it's seen a lot of depreciation. There's still a lot of life in the car, and you'll have a phenomenal car for many years to come if you research and buy the right car.
Find a garage owned, you know, grandpa owned old Honda Civic or some or like a Toyota, and just drive that around, because it really doesn't matter. The best car is the one that you can afford, and you're going to be so thankful if you do that now and just drive that car till it dies, rather than getting a brand new car, you know? And in hindsight, I don't think I'm going to regret this decision because my car is finally paid off, and also, you know, my plan.
If he bought a 2023 Camry and we're in 2025 right now and he said he paid it off, congratulations to him for accelerating the payments. And he learned a very, very valuable lesson very, very quickly. He's going to be fine. But I'm very happy that he paid it off quickly.
Plan is that since it's a brand new car, it should be able to last a really long time. It's Toyota. I can maybe give it to my kids once I have kids, or, you know, keep this car in the family for a long time, drive it till it dies. And while those are all valid points, it doesn't defeat the fact that it's just a money pit, man. It's just a money pit of depreciating asset. You might as well burn that money. You do not get the correct, you know, like, you don't get much value out of a car as you think you do. Especially there's like a curve to it. Like, after a certain amount, you don't really get what you're paying for. And I don't know, I think the sweet spot, if y'all need a car, is either getting like a car in cash for $2,000 or up, or if you have to finance, get a car that's like only $10,000, reliable. Get a Honda or Toyota and put as much down as you can, and, you know, get your parents to co-sign, get your older brother who has a good credit to co-sign, so you can get that interest rate and that minimum monthly payment down.
Guys, oh my God, that is such horrible advice. Do not get anybody to co-sign for you. Co-signing will only destroy the relationship, because there's a reason why the person who's trying to buy the car does not qualify on their own. Think about that. If they can't qualify on their own, they are a big risk. So essentially, you are going to be part of that risk that they don't pay. And then you end up with all the problems because it shows up on your credit report because you co-signed. I have seen this over and over again. This is a big mistake. Do not co-sign.
And don't make just the minimum payment. You know, make a little bit above that. If your minimum monthly payment is $300, put $400 in, so that you're not just paying off the interest, you're actually paying off the principal. And that works in a similar way to compound interest in stocks, where it will just compound over time and you'll see the benefit. You'll pay off your car so much faster if you make, you know, just $100 more a month than that minimum monthly payment. Your principal balance will go down way quicker than you think, and you'll pay it off a lot faster than you think. Yeah, man, cars is like the main money pit that's getting a lot of young people now, and it's one of my worst financial decisions that I've ever made in my life. It's definitely the most expensive mistake I've made in my life too. Wasted so much money in cars in total. If you calculate all the value for me trading in those cars, you know, I spent some money on some repairs for some of them, all the gas and all the insurance, bro. It's just all wasted money that I could have invested. And that's the point, man. When you're young, live below your means. In your 20s, get a cheap ass car that you can get in cash, and any extra bit of money you can save, which you should be able to save a lot because you shouldn't have much expenses at that age, you need to invest it and give it time to compound in the market and get that compound interest. But yeah, boys, getting a car.
All right, so let's stop the video there. There was a lot of great lessons, and I think we're done with our good friend here. So, rags to returns, I appreciate you putting this content out here, and especially there's a lot of great lessons that you learn. Very, very impressed that you were able to pay off the vehicle in 2 years, because if it's a 2023 and you just posted this video and it's 2025, it does help that you are living with your parents, right? That is another thing, that you don't have a lot of financial responsibilities. So there's a lot of good things that you put in here, and I think that you made a lot of great points as far as investing in yourself, investing in the markets. There's a couple of things that I would tell you as far as, and this is the wisdom part, you got to stop telling people to co-sign. That is actually one of the worst things that you can do. Trust me, co-signing typically in majority of cases do not work. And the other thing that I can tell you as well is that you're just starting your financial journey, especially somebody in their 20s. So a vehicle, let's say you buy this one here, is not going to be some of the biggest expenses. There's a lot more expenses coming in life. Wait till you start getting a mortgage. Wait till you find a partner. Sometimes your partner can be the biggest financial mistake that you ever made. There's a lot of interesting things out there that you haven't gotten to just yet, my friend. But it's really cool that you're sharing your experiences thus far. Anyways, guys, let's wrap up for this video. There's a lot of good gems in here. Hopefully you learned something from this video. And as promised, by the way, I mentioned that I would bring up my car. So this is the beauty that I drove for not only through high school, but also as well my undergrad, my first master's, and I also drove this to work for a couple years as an engineer making six figures. And it was funny because it got to the point where there was no paint on the car. It was literally, even the clear coat was gone. It was literally just the metal. And I was showing up to work and people were making fun of me as an engineer making over six figures a year. And I finally got rid of the car with 232, almost 233,000 miles. But it was funny because all the money that I would have spent on a car, I actually invested it and put it to work, and it has allowed me to make a lot of money in the back end. And I've been able to see a lot of financial success at such an early age because I didn't fall into this trap. And I decided to ride my Honda Accord over here, my 2000 Honda Accord, till the wheels fell off, literally. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something. And if you did, give me a like for the video. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and make sure you turn on your notifications so that way you're notified when I upload new videos to the channel. And of course, share this with a family member or friend, especially one that's in their 20s, so that way they don't fall into this trap like most 20-year-olds do. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to drop, YouTube thinks that you'll like this one popping up on screen. So make sure you check that one out if you don't want to wait. And I'll see everybody in the next video.